Good afternoon, Borough President Donovan Richards. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Good to hear you, Roberto.
Yeah, I see all the accommodations there in the back there. A lot of awards. Well,
Nah,
well
you're
deserved
not
awards.
seeing anything.
Well deserved awards. So BP, I want to start with build baby build. Uh
Yes.
I mean there is one LIC, Innovation Queens, soccer stadium, potential casino opportunity, all the development out where you originally started your political career and your life, right? Out in
Yep.
Southeast Queens. I want you to talk a little bit about how you feel in terms of the development, the question of affordability, the question of can people live in New York City? The question of people leaving the city because they can't afford it, and obviously the mayor-elect's sort of platform on affordability. But I want to hear your thoughts on all of the recent development that's happened under your leadership. A lot of it, and those are ones I can think of. I know there's more, but I want to hear your thoughts and what this means in terms of people like you and I who have sort of made our lives in Queens and are Queens natives and want to remain there. So I'll let you take it away. I know it's a pretty long question, but I want to hear your
Yeah,
thoughts.
no, this is very personal to me, Roberto. And I often like to start with personal experience. My parents were teenagers. My mother was 17 when she had me. My father was about 18, 19. And, we bounced around place to place. We could not find an affordable place to live as a child. So people ask me, where did you grow up? I'm like, I grew up everywhere in Southeast Queens. You talk about Bricktown, St. Albans, Springfield, Rosedale, the Rockaways, Jamaica. And a lot of that was due to the affordable crisis that they were even dealing with as teens coming up and trying to figure it out. And they eventually went on, to become homeowners, very proud. They live in Hollis and very proud of their journey because it was not an easy journey. And then I don't talk about my personal story, even working in the council. I think my salary in the council when I began, which this is going to be my 22nd year in government, by the way. I think I had just signed the document to work as a community liaison in the city council around this time, and you're making between $20,000 and $25,000 a year, and you're trying to figure out how could I rent. I mean, I ended up couch surfing with a friend for like over a year. God rest his soul, he passed away. But I couldn't find any affordable housing in Far Rockaway, even as a council staffer. So the personal story and journey is one of the reasons I've always been passionate about housing. And I like to remind people, we were talking about this from the inception of my career, the affordability crisis, and then also segueing into becoming the zoning chairman of the city council, getting mandatory inclusionary housing, getting zoning for quality and affordable housing going before it was popular. Remember, we were protesting over mandatory inclusionary housing. So it's really been quite interesting to see how perception has changed around it and how now everybody touts we're doing MIH1, MIH2, and obviously we fought for the deep affordability option, which was the MIH option one. So getting back to build, 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 I think the housing revolution started with the fight around Innovation Queen. Certainly, I think during my tenure as BP, and one of the reasons we wanted to see that project progress is because we knew that if that project went down, we're setting back the conversation around the need for more housing. And we have to build housing for everyone, right? Of course, we need to make sure our NYCHA residents, low income New Yorkers, but also think about under Bloomberg for almost a decade, we saw no housing built for people earning 70,000 and under for almost a decade. So I'm just reminded of my journey as a zoning chair and looking at those numbers and saying, whoa, we're not even building for the middle during that period. So listen, 30,000 units nearly under our belt just over the course of the last month when you think of the Long Island City rezoning and the Jamaica rezoning. And what I'm most proud, and I want to, of course, give kudos to two bold council members who also negotiated the heck out of the deal as well, Councilmember Natasha Williams, Councilmember Julie Wan, because it's not just simply about building housing, it's also about building community. So when you look at the billions of dollars of investment that's coming into Queens, whether it's transit updates, new schools, new parks, over 200 million going into Queensbridge houses, this is really revolutionary and historic in terms of making sure that we're just not focusing in on the new parcels we're going to build on, but also focusing in on the communities that were largely neglected. And then the Rockaways continue to go off. I had approved almost 10,000 units during my tenure as a city council member out there. So Rockaway Village, which is 1,800 units, we took a parking lot and converted it into 1,800 units, 15% homeless set aside. If you move into that development under the homeless set aside, your apartment comes fully furnished. Then I had approved, in which I just got to see another development out there, Edgemere Commons. That's going to be about 2,000 units. And same there, we were just in there. The first building is up. The families are moving in. The first 40 individuals, Roberto, families who moved in, came out of shelter. So imagine they went from shelter to beach views. And they're not spending no more than 30% of their income on rent. And then, we're now developing the waterfront with L&M, and that's going to be another 1,800 units. We just closed on the first phase with HPD, 15% set aside, some affordable home ownership in it, and then also the remainder will be for people earning between 30 and 80,000 a year on the beach, by the way.
Wow.
So that's going to be another 2,000 units out there.
Well, President.
Then I got one more project I got to talk about.
More? Wow.
I got another project I got to talk about because we just closed on this with the governor last week, and it was just approved by ESD. Right. And when I sat down at this desk in 2020, I'm looking at Claire Shulman's blueprint for this site, which was supposed to be a school site, by the way. The community didn't want a school campus there. So they pushed back, and that land remained desolate for over 40 years. And then guess where our newcomers come in, right? So we got the crisis, quote unquote. I don't like to call it crisis, but newcomers coming into the city, and the state puts 1,000 men on the site. And I go back to the community and I say, well, you guys didn't want to develop this for 40 years. So I mean, this is why you got tents on your site. So if you don't want that, we got to move forward with this plan. And we did a GPP with the governor on that. So we technically overrode city zoning rules to make sure we got it out of line, because a lot of times over the course of the last 40 years, one of the barriers to developing the site was the city council, because you were never going to get it through ULURP, right? So we did a GPP, which allowed the state to override, and we just announced 2,000 units, a new school, affordable home ownership, new commercial, supermarkets, new community center, and that's 40 or 50 years in the making. So we're not talking our way out of this crisis in Queens. We are literally building our way out of it.
President, I want to go take a step back to the proposals, the recent proposals, two through five, right?
Yep.
And as someone who's a zoning chair and a member of the council, and member deference, what do you, I mean, how do you navigate that world, right? Because I know you were in support of sort of the reforms, and an argument could be made, right? There's now a speaker. There's going to be a new speaker, not likely.
Right.
How do
this doesn't preclude the council from negotiating. The ULURP process doesn't change, right? So think about it. You're still going to go through your community board. Like, the ULURP process hasn't shifted. I believe if we're dealing with council members who negotiate in good faith, there's no need to use the appeals board. I mean, we're not looking to, undermine the council at all. And if I was in the council, and we've had cases like this, in the council, even as a zoning chair, where we will work with a member and negotiate in good faith, and then last minute they're like, you know what, I want to turn it down, or I want them to pull the application. You could be negotiating on a Friday, by Monday the application is pulled by the development team. And so there are cases like that. Then you have to remember what are the districts who've done very little, who've done zero. This is what this appeals board is really aimed at. So if you're in one of those districts where where there's been zero affordable housing built. Yes, if you're a city council member listening to this, this is aimed at you if you're in Queens. So everybody needs to do their fair share. Everybody, all 14 community boards are dealing with the same crisis. You know, you can't tell me that because you're a low density neighborhood that your children or your grandchildren um, could afford buying out these $1 million homes in some of these communities. They can't afford it. They're leaving New York City. Black, white, young, middle age, old, seniors on fixed incomes who may want to, sell their homes because the mortgage, they're not the pace of inflation is not keeping up with their social security. And I hear cases like this. They may want to stay in their community. They can't stay in their community because there's no affordable housing or senior affordable housing available. So yes, this is aimed at you if your district has done zero. If you are a council member who's shown up, who's provided sound solutions to this crisis, I don't anticipate using this appeals board.
So why did this happen when you were in the council? And I say that because an argument can be made because the council.
We did push for it. So when I was in the council, that's not true. When all of the speaker candidates ran, including me, I ran for speaker. I was one of those individuals who's saying I wasn't going to support member deference if it meant turning down housing. So I've always been clear on that. You can go back during the speaker's race with Corey Johnson. We were one of those individuals. Yes, we will override you. Very rare cases if you get to zero. I think that there was, obviously there's a lot of friction between Eric Adams and the council right now. So, he didn't have a problem. Could Bill de Blasio have done this? Absolutely, but there was no political will there, right? But I think Eric Adams there's no love lost between him and the council at this point.
Borough President, let's talk a little bit about Willets Point and all the changes happening there, soccer stadium, casino, thoughts on all of that, right? And what that means, right? There is some opposition there, but you've been sort of vocal. Who? There are a handful of people that don't agree, right? And I just want to hear your thoughts on what this means long term, and why it's a fair deal for Queens residents, right? What does this mean for the average resident? Because some will make the case that you're promoting vice, you're promoting gambling, you're promoting something that could be sort of for vulnerable communities and/or people that have the disease of addiction. This is not a good thing, right? Your thoughts on how the residents.
I found this to be fascinating because none of these people has ever mentioned Resorts World. And have any of those same individuals protested Resorts World's expansion, or is this because it's simply just a black and brown neighborhood that it doesn't matter? So if you're going to use this argument on one, then use it on all. And I do take, I'm not a gambler. I definitely know that there are definitely some people are going to be impacted, just as if, you have a problem with alcoholism, it doesn't stop a liquor store from coming up as well. So we try to make sure that the services, and I think that was key for City Field. We've definitely heard legitimate arguments from them, so I don't want to downplay the addiction thing. Elmcore will be a solid partner in this fight. They do substance abuse work. We're going to have safeguards in place. So we see a person there all day, all night, there will be, and obviously when it opens and we put it into and facilitate it and turn it into action, it's a differentiation from just giving you good words, on this line. So there are safeguards we're putting in place. The other thing is, remember, the state precludes you from even promoting gambling in these communities. I haven't seen, and I live in Southeast Queens, I've never seen a Resorts World promotion in my neighborhood. I live 15 minutes away from the casino. So it's not like you're going to all of a sudden see, because the state, which I learned through sitting on the advisory board, community advisory board, it's not allowed. So it doesn't mean that we need to target. The other thing is, remember, City Field, this is not aimed at the community. This is about reimagining tourism in New York City. Roberto, for so long, everything has been Manhattan-centric. Go into Manhattan, get off at JFK, get on the A train, get on the air train to the E, or the J, go straight into Manhattan. Queens, with both of these, will become a global internet entertainment hub. It's not about the casino simply. You think about the concert venues at both locations. You think about the Mets fan coming to enjoy a game, or a Yankees fan coming to witness their team lose at Citi Field. We want to keep that disposable income in Queens, right? You get off at LaGuardia. Why are you going into Manhattan? Stay at the hotel right here. Go to the USTA. Go watch the U.S. Open. Enjoy a game at Citi Field. Go downstairs. Go if you want to gamble. That's on you. But at least you got some of the finest restaurants. You want to have a drink, a cigar. Keeping that disposable income in Queens. And let me just say this: the jobs. I mean, you're talking upwards of 30,000 job opportunities between both, right? When we came into office, the unemployment rate was about 24.4%. We are now down to 5.2%. We got down to 4.2 actually. When Trump came in, obviously the inflation kicked in, so we went up 1 percentage point. But when you go to Citi Field right now and you go to the soccer stadium, you go to Willits, when you look at the diversity of the workers and the amount of workers, thousands of workers on these jobs every day, we're creating upward mobility for the very communities that surround both projects. So down to street vendors, there's a big debate going on about street vendors right now. We negotiated in a deal that the Mets would take one parking lot and we would take the street vendors off of Roosevelt because they'll have to feed 10,000 people a day. So this is about upward mobility. It's not just simply about the casinos. And remember, if you scrub a toilet at Resorts World, you are unionized. If you work in McDonald's at Resorts World, you are unionized. The same will be at Citi Field. So as we talk about helping communities, building communities up, we see the New York Post every other week talking about the red light district. Well, now we have an opportunity to put some of these individuals to work if they choose to, and guess what? On average, they're earning $80,000 a year.
BP, I want to ask you about that. And now I've been meaning to ask you this. U.S. Open. It's a most profitable, my understanding, the most profitable sporting event in the city. They gross more than the Yankees, Mets, Knicks, Nets. I've never seen, and thank God I'm fortunate, obviously as an adult, as a young child, or I remember getting the summer camp, we'd get the tickets to Shea Stadium.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right, day camp, you'd go to a game on occasion, and we look forward to that. I've never seen anyone that I know or someone at the U.S. Open. Let's talk about what they get.
Let's talk about that. You really want me to talk about that? I'm about to tell you the truth.
I do.
They are horrible, and I've said this to them. First of all, I would not have signed off on this 90-year term lease
because they got park alienation as well.
Yes, and they're doing very little for the park, and I'm on the record on this one because and then the shenanigans that they pulled just a few weeks ago, even on this project, like we got the Gaming Commission coming out and you're going to sue, and they are bad partners. I've said to them, we're the discounted tickets for the people in Corona. How are you opening this place up? Not just doing, and what they do each year before they open it, they invite the seniors down to get the fan experience, which is the free experience. So they feed them a few sandwiches. I mean, what is a drink there like $100? I mean, I am going to have more to say on this, and I've raised this with them already. If Citi Field through the casino, we negotiated a $150 million community benefits package, which would go out to local community organizations and that sort of thing. The USTA is only given $200,000 back a year while amassing billions and billions. I think last year was their most profitable year. But it gets worse. The cultural institutions within the park have to close when the U.S. Open is here. So they're impacted and getting very little back. Then you look at what we just released with the Center for Urban Future, the challenges in the park. I mean, the infrastructure challenges in the park are immense. we need at least $100 million to like correct some of the flooding, to address some of the old ball fields, you know, and they've just been poor partners. This is no grand slam on their part. I think that they've been poor partners to the Queens community.
EP, I have another question. Amazon, long time ago, let's just say hypothetically, was it a good thing or bad thing that they did not agree to come to Long Island City?
Listen, I talked about the unemployment rate.
And I remember that being as of right, meaning they didn't get anything that no one else, right, is entitled to. You know, they agreed to a lot of computer science in our schools. You know, there was a back and forth about the reentry population in public housing.
Public housing, yep.
Again, was it a bad thing? Because you talked about Creedmoor sort of going around the process of ULURP. And ultimately, there were some changes at the state level once that happened. But again, use your crystal ball. Was it a good or bad thing for Borough of Queens?
Listen, 25,000 jobs. 25,000 jobs is never a negative to me. And especially, and I remember talking to Mayor de Blasio then. Let me just go on the record and say I think I was the only elected official who didn't sign on in support of them to come at first. And I'll tell you why. And you can look at that letter. Every elected official across political persuasion signed on to that letter.
And some denied it. They signed it and then denied it.
Exactly.
Or asked for them to come and then said they
exactly. Did. But my main concern was, well, where's the commitment to local MWBE, local hiring? I need to see something in writing. I need to know that these commitments are ironclad. And so I just want to start with that premise because I don't move and blow with the wind. We didn't blow with the wind. Listen, that was a missed opportunity. I think if you look at the landscape now, one, none of us could have imagined that we would have gone through a global pandemic that put a lot of people out of work. And I'll say moving in, using the crystal ball now, I meant obviously it was killed. I remember that day because I had just negotiated terms that Friday, I think, for them to have a partnership with York College in Jamaica. So I wanted to make sure Southeast Queens was also in the conversation.
Correct.
As well.
Yes.
And then they pulled out. So I remember the massacre. And then look what they left us with. And I found it interesting that I've heard very little pushback on this. We now have, they're building these huge warehouses in Queens, right? So you got in Rosedale, massive warehouses. And I haven't heard much pushback because guess what? A lot of people who complained about it are ordering on Amazon. But let me just say this. We just did a massive rezoning there. We're in a housing crisis. It's still going to equal, upwards of 10,000 new job opportunities there. But the thing I think that troubles me most with the situation is how the Queensbridge Houses residents were left with hanging and how no one came back and presented a plan for them.
Can I add something to that?
To me, is the cardinal sin here.
One more thing, just for people that are like non-Queens residents, that is the largest housing development in the country.
Yep.
Queensbridge. In the entire country. Only in Brazil is there a public housing development bigger than Queensbridge houses.
Yep.
So that's a big deal. It's a big loss.
Yep. For them, and no one came back to them, like I said. So I'll just get into on this one that through the casino negotiations, we made them write into agreement, both applicants, that they would do direct outreach into these developments. Because if we're saying we want to solve for poverty, we want to give people upward mobility, there needs to be targeted outreach to it, not simply them being consumers and coming in and putting a quarter in the slot, but like, how do we make sure that they have upward mobility through this opportunity as well?
How would you grade the other thing we have that distinguishes us from other boroughs? We have 2 airports. It's a big deal, right? I mean, New York City is the entry point for pretty much everyone, right? Arguably, that's the real new Ellis Island, because hypothetically, right, in some cases, JFK. Are they good partners, Port Authority, in terms of
absolutely
constantly have to build, right? LaGuardia, JFK, the Air Link. it's an important transit hub for the world, not just the city and the country. Are they good partners?
Absolutely. And I co-chair the JFK redevelopment plan right now. $20 billion redevelopment happening now. I literally just got off with Rick Cotton before I got on with you. Congratulations, Rick Cotton, on your retirement. And I want to say, through our negotiations on this plan with Congressmember Meeks, this is going to be the model for the country. People are coming and they are like, we want what y'all are doing at JFK Airport right now. So we have almost 10,000 jobs right now. Obviously we're doing new terminals, all the airlines, pretty much the new Terminal 1. 6,000 of those jobs are all labor, union jobs. There are reporting requirements. So we know for a fact local people are being hired, but not only hired, we just opened up and facilitated a program, and I just graduated the seventh cohort, I think, and it's called the IOC, where people learn how to run a business in the airport. So they have to go through this exercise, and guess what? You have residents from Southeast Queens, like we just opened a Golden Crust in there. They're from Southeast Queens in the airport physically, and they went through this program. So you're going to see the equivalent. I don't want to call them street vendors, but we're going to have markets there. How do you run a business? It's very hard to run a business in the airport, but we're going to have Queens-based businesses located within the confinement of the airport selling their goods. Then on top of that, when you look at what we've done with contracts, over $2 billion of the contracts have gone back into MWBEs and small businesses in Queens. So you talk about the guy from Queensbridge. There's a guy from Queensbridge who got the cleaning contract for, like, I think Delta or JetBlue, and he's hiring people from Queensbridge to make sure the airport, the terminal is clean. So you talk about ensuring that this is not just something called economic development, but community development. How the community engaged in the process? How are they benefiting? And I will tell you, I think we're definitely going to do bigger numbers than LaGuardia did, in terms of making sure that the local impact, the local community sees much more dollars in their pockets through this project.
BP read that we have another distinction in our home borough. The president is from Queens. Funny, he's with the whole immigration thing. He's actually from the most diverse place in the world, but yet he's anti, right? And now the mayor-elect is from, an assembly member from Queens, right? Question for you now. You have to be you are the head of the borough, right? The top.
Yep.
What have your conversations been with the mayor-elect? Like, hey, don't forget us here, right?
Oh,
Charity
come on,
at home. And how did you, right? Talk about your relationship with him prior, right, to this historic run and game-changing run. What your relationship was at the beginning, throughout the campaign, and currently, what have your conversations been, right, with the mayor-elect to say, hey, I gotta rep Queens. Don't forget us. We need a lot of things, right?
So, my earliest days with him were definitely, we're in the pandemic. Like, we're down at Astoria houses, making sure people are fed, in the circle, So he's always been significantly hands-on in terms of making sure that he shows up, especially for the communities who felt unseen and whose voices may not have been heard. And then, there's a few times, listen, we were on opposite ends of Innovation Queens. We were on opposite ends of Innovation Queens. But one of the things I always appreciated about him is that he would pick up the phone. And there's been some, sticky political waters in during my journey. And I really appreciated him picking up the phone to call, to be like, hey, I'm just checking in. I see you may view it this way. I'm talking to my folks on this end. So sort of he's always been a liaison because, people, when I came in, and it's hilarious now because, like, DSA people want my endorsement. Centrists want my endorsement. Progressives, and I'm a chameleon. You can't box me in anywhere. I can work with the Republicans in the borough. And I think on, my immediate impression, I think after he won the primary especially, was we went out to we went out to breakfast, and we were talking about public safety, for instance. He's like, "What's your opinion on Tish?" What I really like about him is that he wants to listen and learn. And sometimes you walk into these meetings and people know it all. He didn't give off that vibe. He gave off a very genuine vibe. I felt bad for him. He had it's one of the times I didn't have a three-piece suit on when it's 90-degree weather, and he had on almost a three-piece, and he was just sweating bullets. But he got through the meeting. But I'll say I've had that deep appreciation. Even just counsel sometimes. I was one of those individuals he called to say, "Hey, should I keep Tish?" I was one of the first calls that got that. Right. So he's been, like I said, we check in. If I see something, or if I have an opinion on something, I will let it be known to him, and he always responds up until this moment. So him being from Queens, I mean, we're the most diverse county. My slogan, Roberto: Queens get the money. That was the first conversation we had. Was like, Queens, we gotta keep it tight. I have no doubt in my mind that he's never gonna forget Queens, and partially it's because he got some aggressive elected officials like myself, who, even if he wanted to forget it, it's just not gonna happen. I mean, you look at Eric Adams the other day. Eric was like on this crazy blog, and he's like, "Queens gets the money because I give it the money." And we've gone through our political, standoffs, but we're pretty good at negotiating and using every tool in the toolbox to ensure that we're leaving this place and building. There's a reason why we've got over $1 billion of investment in this office under our belt, and that will be no different under Z.
BP Richards, the last like work question, and then we'll go into a quick lightning round. Speaker's race. It does matter. It does matter who the speaker is. I don't care what anyone says. It impacts the outcome of housing, your priorities. You were a member of the council, and you have to work with members across the borough.
Yep.
From DSA to centrist to conservative Breezy Point.
Yep.
That's all lives within you, right? Your universe in terms of your leadership. Are you weighing in? Do you have a preference? Or are you more of the position, hey, I'm going to stand down, let it play out, and work with whoever's elected, irregardless of their politics, and, just looking out for the borough, which you've always done, right?
Right, yep.
Putting Queens ahead of all the other personalities and, agendas. Go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts on
Well, I mean, listen, Donovan Richards never sits anything out. I mean, do I have a vote? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, I'm listening to the candidates. I mean, Crystal Hudson, we've done coffee. Matter of fact, we just talked on Saturday. Julie Menon, we talk in ebbs and flows. We will work with whoever wins. People say that obviously the two front runners right now are Crystal and Julie. Anybody who's going through a speaker experience knows there's no winner yet. Like, you can wake up December 26th and the votes have shifted somewhere else. So it's more about, I think, for me, watching the progression over the years. Where does Labor go in all of this, right? And then what I've found myself now that I'm like an OG, can't believe it, at 42 I'm an OG, is a lot of counsel to the council members, within the borough, or even council members who are not in the borough who may just reach out for advice on it. And what I would say is, like, just hold your powder dry for a little bit. Yeah, more will avail itself. It is November 24th today. I think after Thanksgiving, it picks up a little bit more. And then naturally, we'll see where it goes. But each candidate, I think, brings strengths and different weaknesses. Obviously, this is a majority woman council, a very diverse council, and whoever is going to win or be the leader of this body has to, one, navigate the complexities of a new mayor, a new administration. But secondarily, this is a diverse council with a lot of diverse opinions. Are they going to be good listeners? How are they going to facilitate those difficult land use conversations that we talked about earlier on the line? But I'll just end in just saying I've definitely had a very good working relationship with Crystal Hudson for a few years. She's been one to always reach out, even on land use, I think, in her district, just for counsel on how to navigate some things.
BP, two Southeast Queens residents, one speaker, one mayor, Bayside High classmates. Thoughts on both, right? One, unfortunately, and I'm just, okay, let's put our communities of color hat on, right? That's,
Yep.
Unfortunately, Mayor Dinkins one term. Again, never got the credit for Safe City, Safe Streets. A lot of the sort of change began under his watch.
Yep.
Never was fully recognized until much later, unfortunately.
Yep.
And now Mayor Adams, right? For better or worse, one-term
Yep.
mayor. It took 20 years from one to the other. And who knows what that means long-term, right?
Yep. Yep.
What are your thoughts on both? Again, as someone who knows them both very well,
Yep.
happens to be a Southeast Queens and a Queens resident, thoughts on both and their legacies?
Adrienne Adams, I'll start with her, has done a phenomenal job, I think, at shepherding, major housing investments. The Jamaica rezoning is definitely a legacy defining achievement on her end. I think she had to herd a lot of cats during her tenure. And I think I'm extremely proud of her. You didn't see any controversy with her. She really held the institution together because her job is to ensure the institution far outlives anybody, right? And I think she protected it as much as she can. Outside of the charter referendums, that was out. She did as much as she could there. But I will say she will be remembered as somebody, I think, who helped us navigate bringing the city back. She deserves just as much credit, through some of the legislation passed, through a lot of the investments, and holding Mayor Adams accountable, even when he didn't want to be held accountable. I'm hoping they end up one day going out for drinks or something and patching it up, because we all are from the same neighborhood at the end of the day. So I would say that on her end. Listen, without a doubt, her success is his success. His success is her success. I mean, they definitely are leaving the city on better footing, coming through a once in a lifetime global pandemic. Eric Adams, oh man, Mayor Adams. I would be lying as a black man, as the first black man to be borough president, and I know that there's a lot of weight on my shoulders, even just being the first. Especially
in the most diverse place in the world,
most diverse county, 127-year history. I'm the first black man ever.
No, but your same county, it's the most diverse place in the world, and I don't want to correct you.
Exactly, 190 countries, 360 languages and dialects spoken here, and it was not easy winning this race. I mean, you had to stitch together a very diverse and interesting coalition to win this race. Mayor Adams has some significant achievements that I'm afraid people won't recognize because of a lot of the controversy, bad decision making. I often say, if your friends want to see you succeed, so you bring these people who are in your corner to the dance, and they messing up your house, burning down your house. I mean, that he has to live with that every day, right? Because with his record, quite frankly, he should be skating into a second term. In my lifetime, there's been no mayor better on housing. You think of the city of Yes. You think of Willits Point. A lot of the stuff we're talking about, the financing of all the projects in Far Rockaway, the conclusion of that, Long Island City rezoning. Disappointed on some of his stances in public safety, being that he came from 100 blacks in law enforcement. But at the same time, I can't lie about the numbers in Queens. I mean, we're down like 60% in shootings in Southeast Queens, unheard of. Rockaway, Far Rockaway, where I'm from, which was one of the most violent precincts in the city, continues to lead the city in declines in crime. I think the second steepest drops in crimes. You couldn't even walk outside in certain neighborhoods in Far Rock when I was a council member. But through the investments, obviously, that started the shift. But when you look at where we were yesterday opposed to today, significant. So you got to look at the drop in crime. You got to look at some of the huge economic development projects, the soccer stadium, huge. I mean, that's a significant achievement. So, and there's so much more. I'm just talking about Queens. I'm just talking about Queens infrastructure. You know, I had secured about 2 billion in infrastructure for Southeast Queens as a council member. When he came in, I said, Mayor Adams, we got to fix Jamaica Avenue, man. I said, how do we, sons of Jamaica Queens, not fix Jamaica Avenue? And he came through. I mean, $70 million facelift we're going to do. We just did the rezoning, which is going to bring upwards of almost $1 billion into the neighborhood. Real affordable housing, MIH1 mapped. I could talk about we're building a new health clinic in Rockaway, a new H&H, a new pool. You know, we're building an indoor and outdoor pool to teach young people how to swim in Far Rock. I could talk about Roy Wilkins Park, 140 million. We had to procure about 90 million of that under de Blasio, but then he came in and put, you know, another 50 into that. So we're going to have a new community. So when you look at where his investments lie, Flushing Airport, that's going to yield thousands of units of new housing. I mean, we finished the 116 precinct with him. You know, I mean, there's so much under his belt that naturally, if you close your eyes and you just spewed his record, you know, trash. He hates rats. I mean, he had a czar for everything. And you know, but you can't negate the fact that Zohran is going to inherit a much better city than what he would have found, you know, before Eric Adams. So I think Zohran will cut a lot of Eric Adams' ribbons, rightfully so, as a new mayor. And I think Zohran technically can build on his own foundation, but he has a solid foundation to really invest in that will count towards that 200,000 units he's talking about he wants to do. So now it's about implementation, but I think Eric Adams definitely got it up to the line.
Let's have fun now. Most famous Queens resident.
Most famous? Shit. From my neighborhood or what?
No,
I mean,
Queens.
you got so many. You got James Brown. You got, Malcolm X. I mean, you got, there's some Jackie Robinson, you know, off the top of my head. Yeah, no. Oh, I mean, obviously the mayor-elect is Trump now. Trump arguably probably is the most famous, regrettably, not for good reasons either, you know. But clearly, I mean, this guy is a disruptor, man. But that's what we do in Queens. You can't really box us in. You know, people
Greatest
admiring
athlete.
this meeting the other day, and I'm like, this is BS. I got in a whole debate with a few people over this thing. I'm like, well, is this gonna get my SNAP benefits returned? But you know, this is just Queens, guys, man. You know, you never know where we're gonna be at. That's the bottom line.
Greatest athlete from Queens.
Greatest athlete from Queens. Could I say Juan Soto at this moment?
No. He's got to be from Queens.
From Queens. From Queens.
Ron Artest, Lamar Odom.
I went to school where Lamar Odom went to school. Greatest athlete. Yeah, I would put Ron Artest and Kenny the Jet Smith.
Kenny Anderson.
Yeah, I would put those guys in the realm there.
Greatest hip hop artist from Queens.
Oh shit, Nas.
That's a hard one.
I mean, listen, I was just on the phone with Tony Yayo. So just so you know, I come from, so before my friend got killed, which led me into this whole thing. You know, I worked in the music. I worked for Violator Man. I worked for Chris Lighty.
Okay.
So I got to where I was there the day 50 Cent got signed, by the way.
Interesting.
I also work with LL Cool. I work with Mona Scott, who does Love and Hip Hop. I worked with LL Cool J's manager. We're still very close, Claudine. I hands down, it's got to be, for me, Nas is the greatest artist of all time.
Same.
And he's still going. He has like another album, I think, dropping with December 10th, I think. DJ Premier.
Yeah. Great, most influential book you've ever read?
Oh, Malcolm X autobiography. That book. So I was at a crossroads in my life at beginning at probably 14, 15 years old, failing out of Jamaica high school, really didn't know. Listen, people talk about the gang database. I absolutely was in it.
Wow.
I absolutely was in it with my peers from Jamaica high school. And I got shipped out of here. So just by means, my mother met this woman whose son was going through the same challenges, and I got shipped up to Troy, Albany, for boarding school. Uh, while there, so I mean, my average was like a 52, at
Mm.
Jamaica high school, and ended up graduating on time. But while I was there, somebody gave me on my way up there the autobiography of Malcolm X, and that's sort of what shifted the whole trajectory for me. I became a BA student, graduating with like honors and stuff, and so that book, still to this day, that's the most influential person in my life.
Favorite album, favorite record.
Easily Illmatic, Nas.
Last question, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
Um, at 21, damn, I was still clubbing, going straight from the club to the city council office. So I was just about at 21. At 21, oh, that's a deep question. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to I didn't even own a suit technically, I think, when I started in the council. Like I had khakis and stuff. What I would say is like, we don't talk a lot about this, especially as men of color. Like I was embarrassed to put on a suit at first.
Mm.
Cause that wasn't, you walking through the neighborhood, nobody has a suit on. I would say be comfortable in your own skin at 21. And I think as my maturity arose during that period, by 20, 23, 24. I remember going into Jamaica Avenue. I went into one of those like fake suit places, like the buy five suits for $20. And when I got in the store, the guy says the khaki section is over there. And I think I just said, golly, I got a good check. I think I got a little bonus or something. And so I said, sir, no, I'm here for a suit, and never judge a book by its cover. He's automatic. Not that there's anything wrong with khakis, but he just automatically thought a young black guy only is going to buy khakis, and so that's just a fun story. But be comfortable in your own skin. Don't be afraid to stand out amongst your peers.
EP, thank you again for the time. You've done a lot. You've done a lot. Changes in the book.
We're changing the slogan on the Queen signs, by the way, because since Zohran is coming in, Mayor Mamdani elect is coming in, Donovan Richards is going to be, those highway signs.
Absolutely.
I'm changing the slogan. The Queens is the future.
There you go. There you go. EP, thank you so much. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you, brothers. Glad we were able to do this.
And thank you so much, man, for being my borough president.
Queens get the money. Queens get the
absolutely. Be good. Take care now. Bye-bye.